Creativity is when you combine originality with utility. Welcome learners! By the end of this video, you're going to walk away with a correct understanding of creativity so you can start developing it and applying it and using it in your life to make your life a better life. To start, I think it's important to talk about some misconceptions and truths. Now, let me ask you this question. What if I asked you to think of somebody that is creative? Okay, like imagine a creative person. Describe a creative person to me. What would you say? I think a whole lot of you would be describing artists, right? Like musicians, like filmmakers, right? Those people are crazy creative, right? Yes, they are, but I think a lot of people confuse, and here's the first misconception, is that creativity, being creative, is not being artistic. You can have creativity in art, but creativity applies to more than just art. You can be creative in science. In fact, often you need to be. You can be creative in coding. You can be creative in engineering. You can be creative, of course, you can be creative in business. The first thing you want to understand is creativity is something that applies to every single area and aspect of life, and if you can be more creative, there's only benefits. The second misconception that a lot of people get is that creativity, in order to be creative, you have to be special. I'm gonna flat out tell you that you don't have to be special. I mean, there are special people that are specially creative, but if you want to be creative, you have to work for it. You have to practice. In fact, there are actually rules around creativity, right? Which means if you follow those rules, you can become more creative. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, you can't be creative in painting if you don't know how to paint, if you don't know how to hold a brush. You can't be creative in filmmaking, creating a movie, if you don't know how to hold a camera and you don't know the right angles and the right lighting and the right aperture and exposure. I once came across a business person that was super creative, right? And he got asked the question of, all right, if you run a restaurant, how would you be able to pay your employees more so they work harder and have the restaurant make more money? And here's what he said, super creative. Here's what he said. Well, how about, talking to the owner, how about you create a membership program where the membership fee is $100 and whoever buys the membership card gets a permanent 10% discount on all orders for the whole year. And this 10% discount is to be applied onto the membership card so that the customer can come again and again and again, and in order to use the discount money, they have to be using the card. They're not getting 10% off whatever they're buying. They're getting 10% loaded onto this membership card that will make them come again and again and again. And here's what you do, right? You take the $100 that you make from the membership card, and for every sale, you pay a 50% commission to whichever employee made the sale. Right? So all of a sudden, every employee that sells a membership card is gonna get $50. They'll be stoked to do that, but you're gonna get $50 plus you're gonna get repeating customers. And I thought, man, that is creative. And then I realized something. I realized that that man has been in business for over 25 years. So a lot of times, becoming more creative, at least in the eyes of others, just means becoming more knowledgeable about how the world works and being able to make the correct suggestions at the right time. So there are rules around creativity, right? Which brings me to point number 3, and here's the truth about creativity, is that creativity is disciplined. A lot of people, when they think of creativity, they think about artistic freedom, the freedom to do whatever you want. If there are rules around creativity, then creativity is a discipline. And if it's a discipline, it means you can get better at creativity with deliberate and intentional practice. And if you can get better at creativity with intentional practice, what does that mean? Number 4, it means creativity can be taught, right? Somebody can actually teach you to be creative. In fact, one of the most creative media agencies, advertising agencies in the world is an agency called IDEO, right? IDEO, and they actually have programs that teach you how to become more creative. So it means that everybody actually has the internal resources to be creative. We might be wondering, okay, what is that internal resource? Imagination. Humans are uniquely gifted with this ability to interpret the past, interpret the present, and interpret our version of the future, and we use that to be creative. So what actually is creativity? Well, creativity is actually, punchline here, creativity is actually defined as the ability to come up with original ideas that actually have value. And so 2 things, right? Original, what does that mean? Well, original means when I ask a question, and this is an example that Jordan Peterson uses. Creativity, originality means that if I ask a room of 100 people, what are the uses of a brick? The majority of the people would think, all right, a brick you can use to build a wall, a brick you can use to so on, so forth. But then there'd be a few people that come up with totally random ideas of how you can use a brick and for it to work, for it to be actually useful. And so yes, this is where creativity gets its freedom, right? This is where creativity brings a sense of rebellion, right? You're going against the conventional, you're going against the flow. Right? So that's what being original means. But creativity is when you combine originality with utility, with value, right? It's the ability to apply critical judgments to the ideas you're developing. And because you're able to do that, because we are able to do that, right? That's why we have roads, that's why we have technology, that's why we have architecture, that's why we have music, that's why we have all these wonderful things that humans have created, because if we apply our critical judgments to those ideas and we conclude that it's a good idea and it's going to be proven by everybody to be a good idea, the market says it's a good idea, then all of a sudden we have a reason to innovate. Creativity is having an original idea that has value. Innovation is actually taking that idea and putting it into practice, actually making something and then selling it to people or giving it to people so that they can use it, so they can have their lives transformed and become better because of your creativity. So that's what creativity is in a nutshell. You can begin to see how creativity can really help you beat the crowd in whatever you do. And so in the next video, we're gonna go over a couple of ways how you can be more creative in all that you do. But before that, I want you to let me know, was this video helpful? Do you understand creativity now? If not, what don't you understand about it? Are you a creative person? Would you say you're a creative person? Comment below, let me know. Until then, Leon out. Alright, let me try to be creative for you a second. Cue the epic music. Cue the serious face. Roses are red, violets are blue. I have fun making these videos. That didn't rhyme at all. Whatever.